Anyway, a lot of people have a problem with these terms, and I don't know why. There's only 5 of them per sign, and they're the same ones that are on every sign.
But there's numbers with them too.
Well, yeah, there's always numbers with them because you have to know what degree you're talking about. Otherwise, how would you go where you're going and see what you're doing? So basically, when you look at a term, it looks like a little box that's going up like that, right? And from 0 to about 6, if we used Aries, 0 to 6, we're going to find Gemini, Jupiter in the first 6 degrees, and that's 0 to 6. At the 6th degree, we're going to go to the next degree, which is what, 13? Those of you who brought your little
14.
tablet?
Yeah.
14. So from 6 to 14 then is Venus. Is that the next one?
Yes.
See? So we go to so each one of these will have these numbers in them, and I put them up here in the box so you'll know that from that point to this point, it's that many degrees that you're covering. And then from this degree, and either way, if this is 601, that means it's in the Venus side.
Oh.
If it's up to 6, it's down on the Jupiter side. Then it goes to 14. And what's the next one? Mercury?
Yes.
And we have Mercury, and it goes from 14 to what?
21.
See? So each one of these degrees is telling us this is where we are going in the chart. So that's this section, that section, and this section.
So when it hits a 6, then it's Venus.
601 is Venus.
Oh, so it's still, if it's just 60.0.
Kind of like look.
Oh,
But I would say stay with Jupiter.
Oh.
601, you're in Venus.
okay.
It's that tight. So out of the circumstances, then, the terms are simply that. Now the term has to relate to the chart you're looking at. So if it's your natal chart and you have a wonderful Jupiter, then this term is a wonderful term. If it's a lousy Jupiter, then that term is a lousy term. It has to relate to the dignity of your chart that you're looking at, either the horary chart, the progress chart, or the natal chart.
I didn't know that.
Okay. So I thought I would tell you that.
Makes sense.
So everything has to relate to the natal chart. When you do a solar return, all you've done is take a look at where your natal planet is in the natal and where it went for the solar return. What's it doing? It's still doing wherever it is. If you have Mars in the 10th house, you're looking to achieve something. And if Mars now is over to the 5th house in the solar return, what are you looking to achieve? Some creative endeavor or fun thing or some kind of activity where you might be considering for the year a process for which you're going to maybe have all the family out for a number of times and going to go to Disneyland. You might get your brother-in-law who comes out and you go to the bar. You know, it could be a number of things. It could be dealing with ambassadors. It could be dealing with children. It could be a new child. It could be a number of things because Mars in 10 is now going over to 5 in the progression, in the solar return. That's all that's telling you. It doesn't have a brand new meaning. It has the original meaning, which has taken us over to there. So in a solar return, if I have Mars in Aries, which is beautiful, that's telling me that that endeavor would really go well with Mars in the 10th house. You see? So this is the important part of the solar return. It doesn't develop a new meaning. It talks about the old meaning of your chart. And that humming sound is brought to you by the makers of people who drill.
Could you give another example, please?
Let's say your rising sign is ruled by Pisces and your Jupiter's in the 5th house. So that tells me that you're a very creative person in a sensitive way, doesn't it? Because Pisces is sensitive and Jupiter in the 5th house would be very nicely placed. It's because it'd probably be in Cancer, its exaltation. This would be good for a playwright. This would be great for an artist of any kind, photography, fine arts, because Pisces ruler is in Cancer. It also makes that person somewhat Cancerian because the ascending sign, when it's in another sign, personifies that sign more so than the ascending sign. The ascending sign then falls behind that personification. Now in the solar return, let's say that Jupiter has progressed, solar return place in the 10th house. So whatever that individual was doing as a rising sign Jupiter in the 5th, now is in the house of endeavor. something to achieve. So that person would now be interested in achieving whatever they're doing in the fifth house. Add the dignity, because in the natal chart we have a highly dignified Jupiter by exaltation. But if, let's say that it's now going to, in the solar return, it goes to Capricorn, we get a problem, because now Capricorn is in its fall. And so Jupiter in Capricorn in the 10th house in its fall will have quite a bit of difficulty realizing that wonderful fifth house. So have greater expectations than what can be realized, because the planet is really big in Cancer, but has diminished by strength in the sign of Capricorn. The chart is always the first, middle, and last word in the situation. So when you look at your terms, what's the last degree of Aries? Look at your term. Look at your terms.
It says 30 for, it's under Saturn.
It goes, so that last degree is Saturn.
Oh yeah,
So-
they're all that way because that's the end.
And it's the end of it. And you always step up to that Saturn block. And how good your Saturn is in a chart tells you how severe or how relaxed that block would be, or frustration, or whatever it is. You need to know the dignities. Let's cover the dignities while we're taping this. The dignities can be examined as if they were batteries in the chart itself. So each planet is going to have its own battery pack. Now we did this before, but I want to cover it again just because we can.
Do you have a pen that writes darker?
I love that analogy. The battery.
Yeah, it's a good
Now, if we look at this,
It is good.
if we look at this battery right here, this battery, if the planet is in its own sign, the battery is completely filled and charged to the top. It's absolutely powerful. You have no worries about this battery at all. It's going to perform for you when you turn on whatever it is the battery is pulling off,
All
right?
charged
It's
up.
going to be fully prepared. It's fully charged. It's ready to go. So this would be like a planet in its own sign. Let's pick on Jupiter because we all love Santa Claus. If we place Jupiter in its exaltation, what happens is the battery is only 3/4 full. Plenty of power, and we may expect more power than it's actually giving us. That's what the exaltation means. You're not going to get everything you want, but you're expecting more. And so the battery power itself is going to be about 3/4 used up, but you still have power in the exaltation. You can use it. You can use this. So this would be like Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. If we find the planet is in its triplicity, well, you're going to have a battery that's about half full. It's not going to be as powerful. You're going to have to start looking at this with more of a weary eye, you might say, and say, okay, how much power is left in the battery? I can use it for certain occasions. I can't use it for all occasions. And that's how that works. So Jupiter in its triplicity could be in any fire sign. So it could be in Aries, it could be in Leo, or it even could be in Sagittarius, its own sign. Triplicity meaning either day or night. That's all it is. It's called a sect. But we call it the triplicity. There's another reason, but we won't get there. When we find a planet in its fall, what we do is now we notice that the battery has hardly any power left, and now we have to use it very conservatively. And so will the planet use and be used and offer its direction and light very conservatively. So we would see here Jupiter perhaps in Capricorn, right? And so under that star we see that the planet in its fall is not going to give you as much Santa Claus as we want here. It'll give you something. You know, you might get candy bars and fruits and nuts and maybe a nice toy.
Do you think it's worse than it actually is, like it, because it's the opposite of the exaltation, do you think, in its fall? Is
It has an excessive, yeah. Sometimes if this rules, like you found something in this and it was ruling the 6th house, a person might be like a hypochondriac. Something, they might be ill, but they think it's a lot worse than it is. It's in its fall, something's wrong, but it's not as bad as they say. You know, the migraine headache isn't a brain explosion. So sometimes you'll see that in the chart. When it's in its detriment, There's no power at all. The battery is dead. There's no help. There's nothing you can possibly do to revive that planet. So Jupiter, in the sign of Gemini and in the sign of Virgo, has very little power. It's in its detriment here, and it does not work well. It cannot give you anything. So Santa Claus here is replete. It's now the day after Christmas. And if you didn't get it on Christmas, you ain't getting it. So here then you can see how the power of the planets relate by these words. So this is its own sign here, which would be the rulership, its exaltation. In Cancer would be a great deal of power, but not the full battery. Triplicity, even less. And fall, even less than that. Detriment, absolutely no power whatsoever. It's very important that you remember this particular system when you're looking at the planets in a chart, because they tell you how they can help you, how they can express their power and give you what it is you're looking for. This circumstance is called the essential dignity. In other words, the essential dignity is when a planet is placed in a sign
It just seems
that's
like
giving you the essential power of the planet, which is this. When it's an accidental dignity,
Okay, it's not getting the whole screen.
what's happening is that's telling you what house it's in. Whether it's at a cardinal house, a mutable house, or a cadent house. If it's in a cardinal house, it has more power. If it's in a mutable house, it has some power. If it's in a cadent house, it has nothing. Yeah, I'll take it. I need to play with it. So again, if you have a planet that's in its detriment and in a cadent house, you might as well just erase the planet off the chart because it's not giving you anything.
Well,
Richard?
you mean cardinal fixed case, right?
Well, cardinal fixed. Okay, I'll do that. Cardinal fixed. Good thinking. Thank you very much for correcting that.
Okay, I'm moving this.
But I'm looking at house,
yeah.
not sign. So fixed would refer to sign, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So the house placement itself would be what?
Succeed.
Huh?
Succeed.
Succeeding, wouldn't it? That's what we have to change. So, but thank you for catching that. That's a good call. So we have then the cardinal, succeeding, and cadent house. And that tells you the accidental power, which also goes along this line. So out of the circumstance, we need to recognize how this power in the planetary position in the charts are always reflecting back to you some form of an answer. If you don't use this, there's no answer. It's just a planet and a sign, is what a lot of the moderns do. Oh, I have Jupiter in Capricorn.
That's right.
Oh, really? It's in the 10th house. Oh, my God, you must run a company. No, I just manage it. Really? God, with that Jupiter, I think you'd own it. No. It's in its-
Actually, they barely use
You don't get
dignity.
anything.
You
No, they don't use it
you
at all.
don't
No,
talk.
barely at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the circumstance here then is you must understand how the power of the planets relate to what we're about to go into. Okay? Any questions on that? Now, when we see a planet in a house, it's going to tell us something. Let's say that Jupiter, back to Jupiter again, let's say that Jupiter is in Sagittarius, okay? In that case, this Jupiter would suddenly become extremely powerful. Why? Well, because it's in the 10th house, and not only is it in the 10th house, it's in its own sign, so it's accidentally and essentially, absolutely the most powerful Jupiter you can possibly get in the chart. It's got all the ramifications of king-size Jupiter. Let's give him a crown even.
Because of it's in its
This
ruler.
is in its own sign and essentially dignified to the highest degree it can be possibly put, 10th house. First house is good, but that was so we want this person to really get the benefit of Jupiter. So Jupiter in the 10th house here, in its own sign, gives us this incredibly powerful battery type of situation. What we see here is bang, huge because it's in its own sign. All right? If we take Jupiter out of its own sign and put it in the sign of Cancer, well, that's not too bad because Cancer exalts Jupiter. However, the situation becomes a little different. What we start looking at now is not so much that huge Jupiter, but really a very nicely placed one, and still in the 10th house, you would get a nice Jupiter that would really give you a lot of credit, a lot of accolades, a lot of power. It would really do you well. But in Cancer, you can see that it's a little bit smaller by projection than that first Jupiter in its own sign. You see what's going on? Mm-hmm. That's in its exaltation. When we see Jupiter in its triplicity, it's perhaps for Leo or Sag, because if it was in its own sign, it goes really huge. But if we give it as a triplicity, then we see Jupiter as pretty much a nice Jupiter. It'll give you things. It'll give you honors. You have to work for them, and it'll give you things that you want in life. You'll get by. You get by pretty well, because in that's in a sign that it can work with by triplicity. In this case, which either be Aries or Leo, it will work out nicely for you. It will give you honors. It will give you what it is you seek. This is in a pure, pristine state. It alters when you start adding other things to it, like squares and trines and whatnot. But as it sits, that's in its triplicity. Not too bad. Pretty nice Jupiter. If we take Jupiter and put him in his fall, well, now we got another problem, because Jupiter in his fall is no longer the Jupiter we were looking at. It's sort of a Jupiter. You get stuff, but not the stuff you'd like to get. You know, you're not going to get the huge kingly ransom that he was looking for. It's in its fall. It's a lot smaller by power. It doesn't have as much to give. It just sort of is Jupiter. It's a gift giver, but it's one of the elves. It's not Santa himself anymore. So you kind of get left out of that. When we get Jupiter in its detriment, what we get is maybe something like that. You kind of get, no, don't even get it. It's just all shot full of holes. It's all weakened. Jupiter at this point in time just does not have much to offer. So Jupiter in the 10th in its detriment, you get nothing. You know, it looks good, has a lot of accidental dignity, but would you put a man straight out of the crazy house behind the wheel of a car taking you somewhere? Or worse yet, flying your airplane? No, you don't want this person in charge. That person in charge is in detriment. They might be mad at their wife or husband and decide while they're in your plane being the pilot to drive over her house or fly over the house and go, you know, I'm going to crash right into that. This person's got some problems, but there it is. So Jupiter in detriment in the 10th house wouldn't work well for you. You'd get practically nothing at all.
That's a pristine form. It can improve if it has good aspects. And
it might. It might. It depends on the chart. If you follow what I'm saying, hopefully you'll get where we're going with this. Now, another thing about this is if we had, let's say, Sagittarius here, and let's say we have Virgo here. Okay. If I put Jupiter here, it's in its detriment. So you see, this person wants to achieve things in his life. That's where he wants to go with it, because every sign chases after the planet. But the problem is, Jupiter here doesn't have much power. So what he chases as dreams will not be worth his while, or her while. Let's use his just for the sake of argument. So now we got a problem with this poor dude trying to chase after his goal and achieving it. It wouldn't work too well. So now we have to take into consideration how to alter that. Now, if something can really shift this powerful or less than powerful situation, this is a troublesome chart. This is troublesome just for Jupiter. You might as well just take it out of the picture. And that's how that would work. Now, you don't get to chase it. And it certainly is not going to reward you because it's not your style. So out of the circumstance then, this is what you need to recognize when we are looking at the planetary positions in a chart. Rule 2. If you have say Gemini rising, ruled by Mercury, of course. And Mercury happens to be up here in Virgo. You see, this person now is going to chase his dreams, and what is the result of that dream chasing?
Success.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because aren't we not in our own sign
Yeah,
and in its exaltation?
right.
Here's all kinds of rewards and things that this person chases after, and guess what? Gets them, achieves them. This guy wrote his first novel, big seller. First time out acting, gets a job on TV. First time he decides to try something on a bicycle. Perfect. Anything this person tries to get after, that Mercury there would give it to him in royalty. He'd get a great deal of circumstances. But he would have to chase it. The sign that rules it is there. So he would have to chase after that situation. He has to go after it. If, on the other hand, we had Mercury in the first house, then
Yeah, it comes
the
to him.
distinction would now go to him. They would bring it to him. Surprise parties for no reason. They love this person. The person in charge wants to be with them all the time. They want to do things for them, help them. Boy, I tell you, you're the nicest person I ever met in my life. Here's a $6,000 raise. Is that a year or a month? Well, what do you need? They get it, because the success point up here is chasing after the individual, and he receives it. This calms him. So they either chase it, or it receives them.
That's a good example.
All right? So this is what we're doing, and this is how we do it. Person
Reason the 10th,
does,
they have to go for
he
it.
goes for it.
Otherwise it comes to them.
Otherwise, if it were the other way around, then the 10th would come to him.
He has to create the energy.
This is a beautiful spot to understand in all of astrology, because in all of astrology, it works this way no matter what. If you, go ahead. Ask.
So when Mercury was in the 10th house, that
Yes.
means success because it's
High success, right,
high success.
yes.
But because it's there,
Because
Okay.
Gemini was here, remember the
Which is
sign
also-
chases the planet. Because Gemini was here, he as a person would achieve this very easily. It would be, he would chase it. So the person as a Gemini rising,
okay, because
with
that's the
Virgo
rising.
up here,
Okay, the rising sign is a different.
so you see the rising sign is moving here, it's going there. Now this is what happens in solar returns.
Because that would be a square ordinarily.
It might
It
be.
is,
Yeah.
it is a square. That means he's going after it.
It's a challenge.
It's somewhat of a challenge,
Yeah.
but not the challenge we think it could be. Because this is our, guaranteed win. It's a guaranteed win.
It's motivation. Okay,
Motivation would be the square for that. Yeah, that would really say motivation, because it's a positive square here.
He
It's
has
a wrestling
the
match.
sun could have been in the first house.
And,
How would that alter things?
well, let's say that, okay, well, let's say that. Let's say that the sun's here, okay? Well, where's Leo? Okay? Well, Leo is going to have to be in the third house. So all things third house goes here. They go to him. So this person, Leo, would never have to go anywhere and worry about having to be taken somewhere, because friends would probably show up and say, hey, I'll take you. I'll come to you. You know? Oh, you live in a beautiful house. Do you mind if we give lectures here? Yeah, be myself. Sure, come to me. So this would come to him. The other way around, if we're using the sun again, if we use the sun here in Leo, well, this is its own thing. Now this person would love to travel, would love to go places, love to go here, love to go there, because it's third house. But it's in its own sign, so that is its own thing, doing his own thing. It would stay like that. So the situation then is that wherever the planet is, the sign will chase after it. So if we make this a person,
Okay, the sign chases the.
yeah, if we make this a person, we know now that this individual has got his eye on the prize, and by God, he definitely wants to go running after it and see it if he can get it all by himself. So you can see this guy here is
But
like,
he has to always take the initiative or it doesn't happen. Is that-
yeah, he will, but he will. He will take the initiative
Oh, yeah.
because that's exactly what he's going to do.
His nature.
He's going to chase after this
Yeah.
goal and get it because he's going to move to it.
Say with Leo, the sun in the third house, if the sign chases the planet, then we've got the sign
The sign and the planet
in the same, so it's not going anywhere because it's chasing it, but it doesn't need to go anywhere.
loves to do this.
It's happy
Yeah.
where it is.
Loves to do this. Loves to talk, loves to drive, loves to go places. Probably a great truck driver. Yeah.
But he still has this great success coming to him.
So, but what, for example, say you had, to understand this, the sign chase of the planet, what if you had Taurus on the second, and then Venus in Libra in the seventh?
What about it?
So Venus is in its own sign, in the house of the other. So the sign, the resources are chasing the other person.
Looking for a partner.
And
Yes.
How do you do that when there's a dual sign and then it's in,
This is taking precedent because this is telling me look at Libra more than I am taking a look at this.
Because it's
Because
closer
it's
to
in-
Libra.
it's in
Yeah,
Libra?
because it's closer to it.
Yeah.
Remember we did that with Gann's chart? If it's further away, then it takes the one it's closer to.
I don't get it.
It's in its own sign.
Yes.
So this is in the background.
Okay,
They are both used.
okay.
And they both, it
So
rules
this
both.
person will A, marry for money,
Money.
or marry somebody who will just provide money. Either way, there's a money situation in the chart.
It rules both, but it's closer to
It
that
rules
one.
both, closer
But
to
it's
here, so
closer.
the person here has more influence and accent
Power.
and power than this one down here. Although they both rule, this is the day side, this is the night side.
So if it were the other way around, then we'd say
Yeah,
that
they
the
could-
person,
The marriage partner now is very much interested
In the money.
in this dude's money.
yeah,
But it still could be that he does not mind
Sure.
sharing. Because having a partner here is very important.
And the person, whichever direction was, whether it the Venus and Libra example, the partner may share, but they'll tend to keep, because in its own sign, it keeps it to itself.
Fixed, own sign, negative. We'll share, but share probably at a doling situation. Did you earn anything from me today?
In the Taurus. But if it's in Libra, that's an air sign, and that's giving.
Yeah,
and
So,
that's outgoing.
so that person will share.
yes. So this is a marriage to somebody with money, or at least will support somebody with a great concept, you know,
I'm sure.
and be willing to finance. This person would put him to school. This person put her to school, because they would finance the projects that this person's doing. Why? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You know, a modern
Some-
astrologer would really benefit knowing all this.
Anyway,
They do use it a little bit, but it
They
isn't,
do,
it isn't
yeah.
like the hallmark, I think, of traditional astrology.
they don't use
It's a good-
tradition as
yeah,
well as they could.
yeah.
I agree. So out of the circumstance, you see, the sign will always chase the planet. So here we have different circumstances, and this is where you start learning how to balance what's going on.
Wow.
Because this is the process.
Yeah,
This is
I
the
know.
process.
Could you just write that on the board, the sign? chases
As
the
if to
planet?
give 10
Just because
points
it's
to
so
it.
important.
Yeah,
is important.
it makes all the
I agree.
difference in understanding the
Sign
chart, period.
chases, and then I get to see it visually. Thank
Sign
you.
chases the plan. That's interesting. isn't it?
Placement, okay. So, and that's house placement, of course.
House placement.
Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. So you can understand then, when we're looking at an astrology chart, what we're trying to reason with ourselves, within ourselves.
Yeah.
Now when you take the A, B, B, C concept, A is to B is B is to C, well, it stops right here, the buck stops.
Yeah, you.
But this guy gets the benefit, or girl. They get the benefit because this one's willing to share. This is outpouring, it's a masculine sign. Not so much to share this way because it's a feminine sign. It takes it in, holds it. See?
And that's regardless of the other person's chart. This is just using that
This is this
person's
person's
chart.
chart.
Yeah,
Dynamic,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And this is
Amazing.
dynamics. Other person's charts, you put them side by side, and you write this person's aspects in this one, and vice versa, and see how the trines work out.
This is how it be whoever she meets.
And who you'll attract in your life
Yeah,
while you're trying to attract the life.
yeah,
Okay?
okay.
So he was very.
Do we have any questions on this?
Times when your needs are met.
Okay, now, what are we going to do today is we're going to take this one more step.
Yeah,
We're going to unfold the one more step.
Da, da.
Ta-da!
Oh, my most
To the
favorite.
silly little chart that everybody knows and loves. This is what astrology is. This is its layout. That's astrology, that's the layout. That's the thing dropping. We cast a chart to find out what's happening here. That's why we cast a chart. And nothing else matters. Now remember we said whatever the rising sign is, let's say it's Pisces, wherever the rising sign is, that gives you a background sense about the person. This is sensitive, caring, somewhat reticent personality, unless I alter it by putting Jupiter in Aries. Now you see that this person is no longer outwardly a Pisces, but most outwardly an Aries, because the rising sign is in that sign. It's in Aries, so you get an Aries personification of this reticent little person in the
You know,
background.
that's really true of a girlfriend.
Yes,
And
I
she
know
gets-
that, please.
Oh,
So out of the circumstances, this is how you're looking at the chart. If you see somebody who has Jupiter not in Aries, but let's say the Jupiter is over here in,
I think it's detriment.
well, okay, let's say Jupiter is over here in Gemini, okay? You'll find that this Jupiter over here in Gemini, this person is a Gemini. Even though this background Pisces is who they personified in the sign, you actually see the Gemini. And you'll see this Gemini in so many ways because they'll tell you all the wrong information they can because of the fourth house is what illumines us. And so you get all kinds of stuff coming your way, and eventually in life, what do you try to do? Try to sort it out. Because probably the father was a know-it-all that didn't know anything, but didn't mind sharing that. And so you walk away from your house at 18 thinking, I can whip the world, until the first step you make, you find that everything you learned was not quite the way it is explained earlier. And so this becomes a detrimental Jupiter. What does that do for this person? It puts them absolutely at the world's what? Yeah, they become a footstool.
So that the knowledge that they received, the wisdom,
From home, the
From home.
upbringing, what they observed and learned.
wisdom Jupiter at home, they received at the fourth house, was not helpful.
Not at all.
So,
And so now that they're trying to
That's
take that
detriment.
Jupiter
Okay.
and express it through that wonderful sign of Sagittarius up here, well, you might as well throw it out. They're going to have to find another way to make a profession. Something else they'll have to do, because this ain't going to cut it. It won't happen. So this detriment is detriment. It means that. It means detriment. So that means it's detrimental to the person's life. The hardest thing you'll do is when somebody calls you up and wants to know if they're going to get a job and all their planets are in detriment, and the 1st and 10th aren't getting together soon, the answer is no. No job, sorry. Wish there was. Wish I could say something for you.
that's in the horary though, right?
Horary.
Yeah,
But a lot of times you'll see it in the chart here
in
too.
the natal chart.
So the natal chart sometimes will reveal quite a bit. This tells me this person needs what? An awful lot.
Of
Not
re-education.
therapy, but understanding. They have to now follow their Mars to try to figure out how to broaden their knowledge in life, because this ain't gonna cut it. So wherever Mars would be, based from the 9th house, would tell you what that pursuit would be. Now you can possibly say something to that individual and give them good direction, especially if this was in the 1st house, because now you see that knowledge comes to them, and because they're so hungry for knowledge, this penetrates that surface crap. It turns beliefs not into what you might think they should be, but into actual understanding. So belief then is thrown out as a false premise, and understanding takes its place. Wisdom now becomes true wisdom, but it's Martian wisdom. How to penetrate into the problem. So now you'll meet people that will absolutely, psychologists come to mind really fast, but anybody who does good research. They'll teach this person how to do research.
So this is natal.
It can be.
Oh, it doesn't have to be.
So out of the circumstances, we're looking at a chart that says this is what you would look at. How this is graphed now asks us, what does it all mean? What is the charge, what is the battery charge of this Mars? Well, if it's in the sign of Aries, and we look at Mars and Aries, we see that it's going to be in the triplicity of that planet. You see, I mean, it's a day-night triplicity. So you
Pisces.
see right here,
Mars
Pisces.
and Pisces.
Right, Mars is in Pisces.
Yeah.
We're going to see that it sits up here in the day-night triplicity of the planet. So it has some friendliness. Has some friendliness. So there's some power. This person's not going to get a great deal out of life because this stops it, but that helps it. So it balances it out to some power. If the planet happens to be 27 degrees, well, now it's going to be in its own little place. It's going to be in its own term, which picks it up a little further, so now we can elevate that Mars a little bit more. Still, it's not going to be fantastic, but it will be elevated to some degree. But let's say that Mars is going to reside in the 2nd house in the sign of Aries. Do you see some success here?
Yeah.
If the person can hang on to their money. Because Aries says throw it out. There's always more.
Yeah.
So now this knowledge here is in the 2nd house. This person would probably become very adept at becoming wealthy in their life. Because why? Mars is in its own sign, and it is extremely powerful and very, very favorable. So the power here really shows itself marvelously.
And in its own term, too.
And it's in its own term. So you can have all kinds of things going on with this Mars.
Well,
And
if it's
the
20.
more its own term, its own sign, its own triplicity, its ownership, you build that baby up.
So now interpreting it, say Mars rules the 2nd house, and it's closest to that, so it's going to keep its own money, but it has something to do with the education too, or the understanding. So it's going to use the education to get more, build more resources, where it didn't get the resources from home, so to speak. So it's going to have to get its own through a re-education kind of thing. Okay. And
It's
keeping its own money,
well
knowing
stated.
that it has to.
Well
be.
stated, because that's what it is. But I don't know if it will keep it. This
Yeah.
person would need to shown they should. That's a propensity to do so. But that in the 2nd house is a propensity to spend because, well, there's more where that came from. And I'll tell you, you always want to date people with Leo in the 2nd house. They'll always buy your dinners or your thing or whatever. Well, let me take care of that. Go right ahead. Kind of fun. But this is how this would work, because that changes it. Now let's watch how this starts unfolding for us.
Could we just,
Take a break. Go.
quick question there on that, you said that, is it Mars that likes to spend the money? And
2nd house.
second house
Aries
spends
does
the
that.
money.
Yeah, Mars gets rid of
Pass them
things.
out.
Anywhere you find Mars, you're going to lose something because it's going to take it. We did a corollary chart during the week where Mars is in Virgo in the 4th house. Will the person keep their property? Chances are not, because Mars gets rid of stuff.
Oh,
And it's in the 4th house, gets rid of stuff. See? So out of the circumstances, you're looking at a situation here where the male, remember male goes out, female comes in. So it's in a male sign, it's a male planet, and even though it's augmented by a female sign, it's still active here. A planet is more active in the house it resides than the place it rules.
Ah, another thing to
that's
write
good.
down.
Say that, say.
That's a good one.
A planet will always have more power in the house it resides than the sign it rules, because that's where the activity is taking place. So although this is the education is being transferred and transformed into money. So it's happening, they still connect, but the accent is on Mars second. So the planet will always be more powerful in the house it resides than the sign it rules.
Oh, not house, but sign.
Sign house, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
I
another
kinda
law.
wondered about that.
It's another law.
In house
Arthur's
it
laws.
resides, then the sign it rules.
Then the sign, yeah.
The sign chases the planet. The planet always has more power
But the
in
planet is where the expression is.
where the expression, more action, more power in the house that it is, where it's located, than in the house that it rules. That's an Arthur rule.
No, that's Lily, Marin, all the rest of them.
I know, but
They
you
all
said
say
it.
So this is how that
What
works.
did you say about Leo on the second, is it Leo on the second house cusp?
If
Is that-
somebody had Leo on the second house cup,
Oh, that's what,
they'll
yeah.
probably pay your way.
They're generous.
They like to be
They're
generous.
Uh-huh.
Big
Show the
hearted,
generosity, big heart.
big money.
Yeah. I actually lost a client because I paid for lunch once, who had Leo on the second house.
Wow.
Oh,
They said, well, you don't need me if you can pay for lunch. That's exactly what she said.
Wow.
They wanted to pay. And I'm going to tell you something. If anybody offers you a gift, don't say no. Take it and say thank you.
be gracious about it.
Yeah, because people are giving you a gift because, well, they want to give it to you. They want to give it to you. So say thank you. I never argue with somebody at the table. If I offer to pay the check and say no, let me, card goes right back in my wallet. You got it. No, let me sounded good to me. Yeah, I offered, no, let me, do it. Okay. Let it go its course. Go the flow, follow the flow, be the flow.
Is there anything that would take away from that, though?
Take away from that, though.
From the fact that Leo is on that second house cusp, could there be aspects that
Sure,
that
well,
would-
sure, there'll be a lot of
that
aspects.
could
She knows.
make it less?
Yeah.
I just-
They could be broke. They'd like to pay.
Saturn in the second.
So let's say that Saturn was conjunct the sun here in the second. Let's say that you had some squares to the sun, where money has to be doled out on an area where you need to watch it. There's
That's right.
always a mitigating factor,
Okay.
always.
Yeah.
And that only comes through when you do the chart piece by piece
Okay,
by piece.
I need to hear that, okay.
That's how you do it. The whole chart will never be read. It will never be read. The whole chart will never be read on anyone's circumstances. Because if you're looking at one house, the whole chart, unless every planet aspects the ruler, they can't. It can't be done. So that's the only way this works. So that's why we never do the whole gambit of the final dispositor
And it's-
and find out, oh, wow, it all interconnects. Well, it can, but it doesn't. And to do the final dispositor is doing you, your client, a great disservice, because you only need to go past A, B, B, C.
And when you say
And
it's
the sign-
ruler, you mean the ruler of the ascendant? Huh,
I mean the ruler of anything, any
Oh.
sign, I mean, the ruler of any sign.
oh,
When I take the sign, when I take the area of, let's say, somebody brought up Taurus, Taurus ruling the second house. If Taurus's ruler Venus is in the seventh house in its own sign, we don't go anywhere. Because now if I take A is the sign, and B is the ruler, I'll write that as Lord, okay? Then we have to find out how B is related to the sign that it's in. So I need to know from A to B where B is the Lord of that sign to the next sign it's located. So if Taurus is ruling the second house and we find that Venus is up here in Aries, Aquarius, okay? Well, Taurus is to Venus as Venus is to Saturn. Because if we looked at this, we say the sign A is to the sign it rules, B. And the sign it rules, B, is equal to the ruler of whoever is in domicile, which in this case would be Saturn. I need to know the condition of Saturn in order to understand the condition of Venus and the second house. That's all I need to know. I need not go any further, or else it'll be totally, absolutely, completely confusing. So all I need to do is that A, B, B, C. In other words, Taurus is to its ruler Venus. Taurus is to Venus, as Venus is to its sign ruler. And if Saturn is in, let's say that Saturn is in Libra, okay? How good is Venus?
Nice.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a nice mutual reception. Second of all, I've got an exaltation of Saturn. How is the money situation for this person?
Good.
Very good, isn't it?
They think it should be
Extremely
better,
good.
though.
Well, yeah, they wish it was better. He could,
'Cause it's
he
exalted.
or she could go out and get another job. There's always moonlighting. Doesn't have to be here with me all the time. I got friends.
And then if we did the second rule, or, you know, the second Arthur's rule, is the one where the planet, the house that the planet in acts, has more power than the sign that the house where the sign that it rules. So
That's
if
right.
it goes to Libra, which would be, I guess, the 8th house, so it would still have some power over there, but not as much as in the 10th house.
This is the 11th house.
I mean, the 11th house.
Taurus has the sign of Taurus
Yeah.
is not as powerful as the sign Venus in the sun.
Yes, I get it.
Although this is very important here, because this person wants money
They're gonna get it.
out of that organization.
Yeah.
They would not work for that organization for free. They'd want some kind of recompensation.
They look for sugar
They would
daddy.
need some kind of recompensation. Say what?
They look for sugar daddy.
That could be a sugar daddy, mommy. Yeah, that could definitely be one of those. Friends that will take care of the bill.
Take care of them.
Yeah, take care of. And the moon might offer some more of that. But you can see that A to B to B to C tells us a little bit more about what it is we're looking for a planet. Anything beyond that starts going crazy. Now I want to look at something else, and what about, you never read the entire chart. You read the house you're interested in, the planet by which is ruled, and who is in control of that house by domicile ruler. End of it. That's all you do. You go beyond this, you confuse yourself, because now you don't know who is more powerful unless you do the terms and you see how the battery is charged. And the battery, of course, being how this affects us all. This is the dictionary. This is astrology. This is the map by which you interpret this to make that work. That's what you do. So the whole circumstance then is to take this and make it happen for you. Now, any questions on this so far?
I have one question, Arthur. When you were saying just A, B, B, C, should we not go to, most of the planets have 2 houses that they rule? Should we not go to those 2 houses when we're doing the A, B, B, C, or would that be going to see where it's acting, the relationship? So that's just it, just do that and not worry about the house position.
This is an algebraic formula. It
Right.
says A is to B as B is to C.
Yeah,
The water is as hot is to the amount of flame that you put under it. The day is as warm as the sun is shining today.
okay.
In other words, that's all you're doing is breaking it down to a very simple situation. So if the sign again is Taurus, the sign is to Venus, its ruler. You always have to do that. Aries is to Mars, Taurus to Venus, Gemini to Mercury, they always go is to. So A is to B. Taurus is to Venus as Venus is, in this case, to Aquarius,
Which
is ruled by Saturn. That is the end of the equation. However conditioned the Saturn is, that condition of Venus and the sign is equally there.
Say that again. Condition of Saturn.
The condition of Saturn will tell us the condition, in this case, the condition of Saturn will tell us a case of Venus and how strong it is and how strong the sign is itself. Because this is your final dispositor off of the east. This is the answer by which you're seeking the rest of the conversation with. This is your, now each sentence is a cosmos in itself. Well, here it is. There's your cosmic sentence. So if I know that Saturn's in Aquarius, it rules Aquarius, and it happens to be in the sign of Libra, well, I've got now a nice exaltation. So now I understand that this Venus is very well taken care of by Saturn somehow. I know that. So the 9th and 10th house are going to be very powerful with that situation of the 10th and 11th, however it falls in the chart. The chart is simply the map that tells you where what is by house, sign, and placement of the planet. You then go here to figure out who's got the most power in the chart to run with that. All right? Does this make sense for you?
So it's like the batteries in reverse, kind of.
This is your batteries. This is
Yeah.
exactly, that's your battery in reserve. This is the best part of the battery right here. And this is okay. Exaltations are nice. That's okay. And this is what's going to happen. And then the face, of course, is sort of a weaker battery. Detriments, no power. It all falls some power that you'll use in reserve as necessary.
Can we put a battery to each one of those things? A to B,
Yes, you
B to
can.
C?
But that's a brand new game.
Oh,
But yes, the answer to that question is yes. You could do it by having a very bad planet in mutual reception with a very good planet.
we can draw.
Now, the bad planet can't do much, but the good planet can lend support. But the bad planet is still out of the picture, but it does lend support. So you can get something out of this if there's a trine, an aspect, a sextile, or mutual reception, anything might pull that out, but it's not going to give it much more of a boost. It's just going to be some kind of a boost. So that's how that works out. Okay, now, here's an interesting dilemma. Let's say that this person has, the moon and Neptune, because you all love Neptune. Let's say it has the moon and Neptune in the sign of Gemini. Okay? But let's say we have Mercury down here in the sign of Sagittarius. What does that tell you?
Detriment, not much battery power.
Can't do much, can it?
Can't do much. Opposition.
Now, see that opposition taking place? Scary, isn't it? It is to me. So I see this in somebody's chart. I'm going to have to give them some good counseling.
Yeah.
Why? Don't we remember that this is the house of 0 age? Their age is this. Watch what we do. 7, 14 to 15, 15 to 22. There's an incident. 22 to 29, 30. 30 over here, so this is 29 to 30. Give it a 10. This becomes 37, 38. And this becomes what? 44 to about 48. That's about it. And as I move on down in this house, keep adding 7. So we're 55. We're going over here to maybe 62. And then we're over here to 7 more is 69. Go over here to some more age. So we add 7 to that. It might be 76 over here, which is a terrible gas station. Over here to 7 more, might be 83, over to the end of the life, okay? At 22, you can almost guarantee that this person caught something that was Neptunian in nature. Why? Because the ruler of Gemini is very weak. Suggestion that this conjunction would give that person an illness of some form.
Even if it's on the MC up there.
If it's anywhere, I'm just happen to put it this way.
Okay.
You have to extrapolate. This is a very weak Gemini ruler. It's in exile. It cannot help. It's like having a friend in Los Angeles without a car and having to come get you. all right? They're not coming. That's what this is. So here this person contracts a Neptune, whatever the Neptune could be, and in that contraction of that Neptune, it will exacerbate as they get older, and by the time they're 44 to 48, this becomes mentally, it becomes a square. So that square at around this age really starts developing for this person. There's some problems going on. When they get down to this age, it's really developed because now the moon has moved into opposition by progression, by age progression. This is like the sunset chart we do. So by that age progression, solar arc, if you will, by that age progression, we see that when that gets to this point, this age, that opposition tells us that this person is going to have a very hard time of it at the end of their life, because this illness is going to catch up with them. Could be a number of things, especially with the lungs and upper chest. All kinds of things could be a problem with that because of that Neptune really just deteriorates things, just pulls it down. You know, it's like water beating up against a rock. It eventually wears the rock down, doesn't it? Water. You never think that would happen, but it does. So this problem, as it reaches to this state, can become a very serious problem. Remember, this is the old age. People who are born with a lot of planets here are fortunate. They got a good age. They got things going on for them. You know. Other people will usually have a lot of stuff in this quadrant. Well, this is their big age. That quadrant, that's their big age. This quadrant, wow, a lot of stuff as a kid, child actor. Everybody loves child actor. Where is he now? Well, I think he moved to something.
Being productive.
Yes, where the emphasis of the quadrant is the higher productivity, yes. Just like John Wayne's horse. When John Wayne became a star, he stayed a star. What happened to his horse? Yeah. Where's that? Yeah. I could hear John Wayne now saying, if that's the horse on the phone, tell him I'm not here. This is over. Done. So this kind of a situation gives you an idea by how to look at the age and work with it, because this detriment is really bad news. It's already bad news. But if we can place this detriment in even worse news, and if it's in the sign of Sag, we come down here to Sag and we look for where Mercury is, it's in detriment. Where would its worst detriment be? It could be in this position at anywhere from 19 to 25 degrees would be Saturn, pulling it back down some more, and really giving it some aches and pains out of that circumstance. So when you look at that Saturn guy down here, if this happens to be in that state of, what do we got, 19, 25, 25, let's say that Mercury is 27 degrees, and it's with the term of Saturn. That term of Saturn is going to tell you this is extremely chronic, because the term now steps forth, and it's chronic to the degree of A, B, B, C to Saturn. What is the condition of Saturn? What is the condition of Saturn? Could be anywhere. But that tells us a story of what we're looking for. If I had this as a client, and I saw this circumstance, and we were saying this area right here, I would say, listen, there's an illness. You probably contracted it sometime. Oh yeah, I was in the service and I got malaria. Oh, well, I've got news for you. Stay on it. Get every possible doctor you know to help you with malaria. Learn all about malaria. How do you prevent it from progressing? What can you do about it? Warn them. This does not have to be the case. Because you got them early enough, you might be able to change it. And this is basically how it is. This happens to be a friend of mine who got AIDS. Bang, that age. Rolled around, time he got a little bit older, it really started showing itself. And you all know, with that Neptune of Whitney squaring Venus here, Venus was her 8th house, look at the time she died. 6th house, around 48.
Is your friend alive?
No, we buried him. Had to.
That's a good thing.
Couldn't keep him around. You're like sitting around not saying much. So anyway, this would tell us then how to take this to the next step.
Yeah, but did he have a smile on his face?
No, not with that kind of exacerbated pain.
That is a funny scene, isn't it? No,
Okay, now, when we see a planet working through this, here is the most fun you can possibly have with a chart. Planets go through signs,
Yeah.
do they not?
Yeah.
And as planets go through signs, we recognize that they're going to be doing something for us. I wonder what. Well, as they go through the term of the sign, they will give us some inkling as to what we can expect.
Oh.
Because the term will give us a little bitty nudge in the bottom of the chart as to what we're looking for. The other thing is BTW, as they say over the internet.
What's that? See?
Does not the house continually to change degrees?
Yes.
God, yes. Do not the house continually change degrees through the term? Oh, yes it does.
Oh, what did-
So, if you were born with 0 degrees Aries rising, the first 6 years of your life is all Jupiter.
oh.
Wonderful Jupiter. It's nice and happy, it's friendly. Especially if the person was born at night, and it's nighttime triplicity. If they got a good Jupiter in the chart that has some power to it, then that triplicity is going to tell us something. Now, when they get 6.1, that 6th birthday, something happens and it goes into Venus. Now we go from Jupiter, great, to Venus, good. Not as great, just good. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but not like that. So the father may leave, stop supporting the family. But the aunts and uncles come in and say, oh, we'll help you. Take the person in, and now the person's living in another house. Nice house, nice neighborhood. Plenty of food, plenty of clothes, gets to go to school, everything's really nice. Bang. So between 6 and 14 years of age, that planet is shifting through, that sign is going through, is telling you what to expect by the term. Now, if the term of Venus is really bad, this goes from shifting from really nice to really bad. Some people have this in their experience. Their father leaves at 6, and mom has to go to work, so the kid's farmed out. And now, what about that Venus? If the Venus is sort of like, and it's fall, it's going to be, and it's fall, it's going to have that negative connotation to it. From 14 to 21, thank God the person turns 21, it becomes Mercury. Let's hope that Mercury has a little bit more dignity. So the dignity of Mercury now puts it together for that person. They probably, in school, things are a lot better. Probably went to college at 18 as soon as they got out of high school to get the hell out of that Venus circumstance. So they get going out of here and they finally get over here. And now it goes on through to the next one. So at 26 degrees, the person graduates. This is hypothetical, but the person graduates. Are we not in its own sign? They'd graduate with some honors, wouldn't they? Because Mars is in its own sign, its own term. So we get a double up it. So they graduate with their honors and things are good. But, you know, last select, they have to go to work. So it's the Saturn part. So hopefully Saturn will be good. As it progresses and it leaves the Saturn, guess what? It goes down to Taurus and progresses sign at 30 or so, goes into Taurus. Now we got Venus to look at. And now the person goes through that for the next 30 years. And then we go, by the time it's 90, it goes to here. And it goes from here, and probably at that point they go, I'm tired of this, I gotta go. Okay. So we said this person maybe 75, 85 now. This will tell you what to look for, where the changes are gonna be. And they'll be there.
How interesting.
Is it sort of like the joy when you have the planets? You know, I mean, the houses, you have the planets. Saturn's in
I
the
would
first
think that.
joy. So it sort of gives like that filter
Yeah.
for that to
You
happen.
get 3 filters now. You get Saturn in the first house as its joy for struggle,
Right.
right? But then you have the sign, which tells you how Saturn is going to be worked on. In this case, Aries is going to like try to pound it through. And it's got a good start. Jupiter's got a very nice start.
Yeah.
But Saturn comes in, and when it goes to Venus, there's a dip. Because Jupiter, wow!
Huge. Yeah.
Venus, not as well. You know? Remember, Jupiter's Santa Claus, Venus is the elves.
Isn't Saturn though at 7 years old? That's the first square.
There's the first square to Saturn, right?
Right.
So it would have some emphasis. So just before 6 to 7, yeah. So that Venus could be like, uh-oh. Could be an uh-oh sign, because yeah, that's a first Saturn square, it gives you something to look at. But this is how to stack up the meanings, so you start getting a clear sentence, an astrological premise.
So you take each planet and each sign and do that?
Yes, I do. And when you get a chart that has a lot of negative planets, that's a negative experience. Yes.
Well, my father was killed when I was 2.5.
Okay.
So how would that relate?
Well, well,
You have to look
this
at
is a
the chart.
specific question. I need the whole chart to look at.
Oh, okay.
However, to answer this question to some degree, perhaps that if we're using Aries again, just to keep the model straight, perhaps you were born when you were a few degrees closer to Jupiter in that direction. So you're not 0, but let's say you were 4 degrees, born with a 4 degrees Aries. Well, at 2 degrees later, you see, it shifts from to just, you got 2 degrees left in this term, you're now into Venus. And if Venus ruled his 8th house, that could have been the passing. It's very possible. Hypothetical, but that's how you might see that. So the later degree, the quicker and the closer it is to the next term that it's going to be working with. And this stuff comes out of Vitius Valens. I guess you'll remember him. He wrote all those wonderful things. So Vitius Valens this is his stuff. This is how he was.
So this is another way to add to the condition of what you're looking at to see how strong and how good things are.
Absolutely, because you need to remember that. Remember that this is how you're determining what is going on in the chart. So
There's so much.
let's take something and see what we can do with it, just for fun. Give me rising sign, Richard. All right, Gemini rising. What degree? 15? 1-5?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we have 15 degrees Gemini rising. Just that alone, we go over here to Gemini, and we look at 15, we see this between, just after Jupiter, but into Venus. So we know that this 15 degrees has some influence of Venus by its term. We know that. So
Where do we go now?
I'm using 15 degrees Gemini,
But
and I'm just telling you, if we look at this chart, 15 degrees Gemini
oh, I see.
is
That's,
between Jupiter and Venus.
I see.
Because it stops at Jupiter at 14.
Sure.
Okay. So now it moves into Venus. So this has a Venus influence. Now where would you say the ruler of that is?
12.
Okay, let's put it in the 12th house. What sign?
Gemini.
Okay, so it's in its own sign. It's in the 12th. And what degree?
8.
8 degrees. So again, we're just now looking at what's going on. We're just now leaving that Mercury point, and we're going into the Jupiter. So this has a Jupiterian influence as far as the terms go. Term, we're looking at the term in Gemini at 15, and now we went to the rule. This is the ascendant. The ascendant has a Venus quality by term.
Yeah, I got that. Now, how did you get the?
The ruler of Gemini, Mercury,
Oh,
is 8 degrees.
Gemini.
And if we take 8 degrees,
Okay, I'm
we're
sorry.
just past 7, so we're into the Jupiter aspect of this term.
Thank you.
So that gives us that. What or where is Jupiter?
Oh, Jupiter is on the 4th cusp.
Where?
4th cusp.
Give me a sign.
Leo.
Okay, so Jupiter here is in Leo. What degree?
22.
22. Is this a day chart or a night chart?
Night.
It's a night chart. So if it's a night chart, we now have Jupiter in its sect, night sect. And that night sect is telling us that it's in its triplicity. So it's friendly. Being friendly doesn't make it huggy-poo. It just means there's a sense of tolerance, there's a sense of everything's okay, you know, it might work out. It has that sense. The fact that Jupiter's in Leo is not a bad place for it, because Jupiter in Leo has a position, but at 22 degrees, when we look at Leo, we go over here to 22, we see that it's under the term of Jupiter. we bump it up a grade, don't we? So this is a little bit more favorable. I'd give it a plus, because that little bit more favorable says that she'll at least be supported by the father, at least be recognized to some degree, because this is, although better seen and not heard comes to mind because the ruler is in the 12th. Hide that away a little bit.
That was one of his favorite things to say.
Better seen and not heard?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what that would say, because that's what that's doing. So this person has a little bit more influence, but you can see how that influence is extended over here to this Mercury by that Jupiter. See the connection now? We just connected that pretty good, and we got a sentence out of it.
What's that word after, in the 5th house of Jupiter?
Sect, S-E-C-T.
Oh, sect.
It's these pencils.
Oh,
Somebody
no,
gave
I
me a
just
set of
wanted to know
pencils
what
that
that-
won't write.
That's
and I
okay.
don't get it.
I just needed to know.
S-E-C-T. Sect means day or night.
Oh, that's.
And in this case, it's a
I
night
did-
chart, so we went to the sect,
Oh, I see.
and the triplicity is what the sect is, and we went to that.
Oh, I
for that.
see.
Why did you say the father would tell that to the child? I
Isn't
mean,
this the father?
yeah, but
Well,
where's the
yeah.
son?
Well, there's the Jupiter right there. We're getting Jupiter influence right now.
Okay.
I'm just here right now.
Okay.
We can go to the sun, but I'm pretty sure the sun's gonna be close to the first house. Where's the sun? Oh my. Is it Gemini?
Yes.
Oh, so now the sun, it's in Gemini. What degree?
25.
25. So at 25 degrees, we would go over here, and we would look at, is it 25 plus minutes?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not any longer in Saturn, it's moved out of there. It's now in the Mars term, so we move it this direction. So now we say we have to look at the Mars term. We don't know where Mars is yet, but just by term, we now know that that has a strong influence by Aries in the 11th house. You're on your own. Go get friends to help you. Go get something else to help you. You figure it out. You do the move. You do the move. Because that Mars is telling her what? Take action. So she has to take action with that. So here we are now taking this situation and applying it by term. But if we look at Gemini, we notice that there's no sun in this area except by face, and it's the last degrees of 30, so she's here by face. So the fact that we got some face here is giving us at least a little bit more energy, not a lot. So this starts, although we have such a powerful energized chart by Gemini rising, we subdue it quite a bit with that Mercury in the back, and plus the fact that the father helped to do that. Now we can look at the sun, and now it's in the first house. So you can see the relationship is there, but the relationship would be cool. We're not being embracing, all one, hug-the-kid relationship, or was it?
Not huggy, but loving, but,
Yeah, caring.
but not talking
It was
about it.
caring, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be a caring relationship. But, again, caring. No. Not like it could be. Caring. So here you're looking at the terms.
Would you say not, would you say, Arthur, just to carry that, because the ruler of the sun, Gemini, is in the 12th, so it would be not openly caring.
Yeah?
Would that be?
That could be
would
part
you
of
make
it,
that?
part of it, but,
But she knows that she was cared for, that it wasn't something.
yeah, this would be, yeah, I mean, the sun's out front, it's in an angle,
Yeah.
so is Jupiter, it's on the angle. So this becomes a very important planet.
Right.
And so these two guys start talking, but look at how the sun reacts by being in Gemini to that Jupiter. If I look at Gemini, how does Jupiter correspond to Dad?
Oh.
It's in detriment. So there's other things that we start examining, saying, wait a minute, she's not taking that too cool, because this would receive Jupiter in detriment. So we're going to get a different psychological viewpoint than just the old thing, because it's relation to one another.
That would be fabulous if you could review that, about how that this Leo is being received by the sun. Wait, yes. This is where I get confused. The sun is the ruler of Leo. So it's being, the sun comes to Leo. The sign chases, the planet chases the sign.
Leo looks over here at the sun in Gemini.
Right,
That's fine. The water's not ruffled.
okay.
But the fact that this is in that sign takes more precedent than the sun does. And we just said that?
Right,
So Jupiter here really is a Jupiter-Leo thing.
okay.
And Jupiter is not well received by Gemini,
Yeah.
because Gemini sees it as detrimental somehow.
Oh, I see.
Gone too long, not close enough, you know, what if dad's a truck driver, what if dad's in the service, what if dad, you know, always a little bit removed. And so that would be not well received, something would have to be said about that. But wouldn't be said because, well, can't make that communication effort. I need a hug, can't say that. Remember, Gemini is all surface. It sees the surface. It's hard to get below the surface of Gemini, because Gemini is like walking in moonlight. All you need to know is where the shapes are and the shadows are so you don't trip. Thing. Virgos, on the other hand, they want to examine everything. You know, they'll look under the rock, but it's during the day, because it's a day sign.
Ah,
That's why it's a scientific sign.
I see.
So out of the circumstance, we get some sense by how we look at this chart, and we look at this section, feel for it, and this Mercury is very well placed. It's in its own sign. So
Yeah.
there is a sense of self-value. And the fact with that wonderful Jupiter here, that also says something about how I can get to my end of life, which is nice, because look at that Jupiter there.
Yeah.
And look at these planets here. This is a nice end of life.
It's triplicity down there.
Yeah, it's friendly. It's all. I mean, it's
Yeah.
friendly. It doesn't
But you can
grab
buy
the
a
hair and
house.
suck on the side of the face with a big kiss. A little pat him on the back. It's friendly. That's what it means. This is
But
a
it would be
friendly
small
Jupiter.
house.
Okay. So you got all this wonderful stuff going on here at the close of life, because that's what, did we just round that out a bit? Okay. And your word.
You don't take it literally by that being age 69, that's when,
Yeah, I do.
no, okay, so,
Yeah, the age of the chart will always be 0, 22, 44, 66,
so,
N.
So each one is 7,
Does it-
8.
About 7 years, 3
7
months or so.
Okay.
but that doesn't mean she knows that she's going to maybe pass away at that age. does it?
Well, we're going to look at the 8th house and probably won't.
Well, I meant, I don't, yeah.
I do.
No, but I meant, can you take it literal? I don't mean her
Yes, I can
personally.
take it literally.
Oh,
I can take it literally and look at it. Now, unless I get an 8th house transit that's really hard, strong, big, heavy, and I got a Saturn, Jupiter involved with that, say goodnight, especially if it's with the first house. So any transit that's going to go over that first house by the 8th house ruler is going to say quite a bit what's going on. In this case, it'd be Saturn. See? Where's your Saturn?
Saturn's in the first.
Oh, yeah, see, Saturn's in the first. Who controls what?
It's, yeah, 29.
29 Gemini.
So, yeah.
So it's sitting right here with Mars taking in and kicking in with it. So this would ask us to take another look at Mars to see if Mars and Saturn will do something to Mercury. So her signature for leaving out here is going to be Mars and Saturn playing with Mercury. That's what that tells us. So out of that circumstance, that's what you know. So that's what you would look for to see how long she lives. And apparently, she has control of it. She's got more control than it has. So all that stellium in the first house gives her a great amount of control. There are problems with that control, but it's still there. Preferred one, likable, intelligent, quiet. Nobody knows that by the way she acts here, but I mean, when we listen to the tapes, when you talk, all you hear is a murmur. You can't quite distinctly hear. Okay, well, that's cute. But this is who you are, and this is how you see it. And this is how you start taking these and stacking them up, pulling them out forward so everybody can see what's going on and how this works. So everywhere Saturn is, you know, you want to watch what's going on and see how it's going to help, where it's going to take us, what it's doing in here, and how it relates. And the same thing now, you'll notice that each year by solar arc progression, that'll go 15, 16, 7, and by the time it's 21, she's 6 years old. Anything click in at 16 for you? When you were, I'm sorry, when you were 6?
Oh, 6.
6th year? That was a Venus change. Because you went into the sign of Venus at 6 years of age.
Uh-huh.
It would have been when I was first started school. It was like this French mansion in New York, and it was a religious school, and they had chapels. And one time I fainted because the incense was so beautiful. I remember a lot about that because it was
The word
Latin.
beautiful?
We had Latin, and
Yeah.
everything was in Latin.
How fun.
It was very magical, and then you see the statues, and oh, it's alive, and
Yeah.
you know, and that kind of. But and then that's.
So this wonderful Venus experience happened about the time you started going to school.
Mhm.
So you can talk to your clients and pull stuff out. And write these little things down, because later in your dossier, when Venus is making a trine somewhere, or any kind of thing that Venus is doing for her, that's the first thing I want to know. Is, wow, that first experience with Venus was really neat.
Oh, that's
She had a
so
great,
nice.
great time with that. So it's always going to reflect. Everything is in a cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, everything. Turn, turn, turn.
But
The birds.
Venus is 21 degrees here in
Yeah, but
June.
she is at 15, so 15
Oh,
to 21 is
thank
6.
you, Thank you.
You're very welcome. I knew you'd ask. I need somebody to keep me straight, and that was a good job of it. So this is how you can pretty much tell and forecast your progressions. Where's the chart? And what degree are we reflecting off of the terms? And then are we looking at the terms and then opening up rulership, triplicityship, exaltationship, fall or detriment? That opens up a whole vista. This is astrology. This is the map. This is our direction. When I'm in an airplane and I'm flying over something and I'm casting our plot for navigation, that's the chart I would use.
Oh, you're
Yes.
kidding.
No,
For real?
this is why I got in the service what I got. Because I already knew this. And they saw I could do a chart, they went, oh, that's a time chart for navigation. Oh, yeah. That's a time chart for navigation. Not a plot chart against the ground, but a time chart for your navigation.
Because that was the time she was born.
Planets are moving. And as they move, and I'm moving, I want to see what's happening to my horizon. And as I'm moving towards it, it's constantly moving too. And I know exactly, by sign,
Oh, yeah.
where I'm going. In this case, it's S-I-N-E, sine and cosine. That's primary progressions. Nobody does those because they're too hard, so we use secondary, and they're just as good. Primary, much more accurate, but secondary, just as good. You need to know how to use sine and cosine. So when you use sine and cosine here, if I'm here while I'm flying, and this is my view in an airplane, this is my view of the horizon, looking out over the view. And as we're flying this way, that's shifting. It's changing all the time, backwards. And so as I'm moving forward, I can see it. And remember, when you look at the vertex, same thing. You have up and down, longitude. You have side by side, right? East and west, the horizon. However, the vertex is right there in the anti-vertex. That's this way. North and south, longitude. East and west is also longitude this way. But the north and south is your latitude or declination. Longitude. Direction. Vertex is direction.
Direction. Oh.
That's all you need to know. You can read the books all day long. That's simply it. And wherever the vertex is in the, well, it can be anything like the 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th house. Rarely into the 4th, but anyway. The vertex will always be on the western side, right? The anti-vertex will be on your side. It will project somewhere here.
Is it the opposition?
It is. It's perfectly opposite. Good side. I was going to say that, but I wanted to point that out. But yes, it's the opposition of its point. So wherever the vertex is, we find the vertex giving us an activity, and if the vertex is in the seventh house, well, its reaction is going to be over here in the 1st house. So this is why you wanted to know the vertex in your chart, is how to use and manipulate that. So when things come your way, in this vertex, you can handle it. Here's an interesting point. Whitney Houston had Mars transiting her vertex when she passed away. And the vertex is in the 7th house, right into the 1st, you see. There are 5 signatures that show Whitney Houston's passing. There are 5 of them. So you guys have the chart, you might look for them. And discuss
So what
those.
makes it a passing way if vertex is in the 7th house
The
opposing?
vertex is a world-changing event for you. Wherever it is, it will absolutely change your life if there's a hit on it. Any kind of hit that goes on through it.
So,
Transits are simply that, they're a transit. But if you get like an eclipse or a conjunction or something going on a vertex, your life is about to change big, big. And in her case, even just a simple transit, but she had other signatures that supported that Mars vertex. There wasn't any Martian energy that took her out. But the vertex, Mars in the vertex, shows an inactive energy.
oh,
Okay. So she went in that direction. So under these circumstances, we always want to take a look at how the terms are going to relate to us in the chart. It's about your 3rd thing down. And then we work with it. So under the circumstance then, you're starting to get a feel for how we're looking at this chart through the eyes of this graph. And everything is going to have its place in it.
Beautifully done.
When you get to detriment, don't even bother, because the planet isn't worth anything. It actually can't even receive help because it's in detriment. So, you know, if you're trying to screw in a dead light bulb, it's not going to light. I don't care how much power you generate to it. It's burnt out.
have you seen